Hello, everyone, and welcome to WSJ Live at Bryant Park. I'm Lee Hawkins, and I'm joined today by Damon John, CEO and founder of FUBU and celebrity host of the TV show Shark Tank.
Thank you.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience, so I'm so happy to see everybody, and we are really excited to jump in. I want to talk to you and go back a little bit, because what's great about you is you were a kid from Hollis, Queens, and you were in the middle of this cultural phenomenon that just exploded, but you were one of the people that figured out how to capitalize on it. And you worked at Red Lobster.
I did.
And you had 10 t-shirts in your basement. You were working at Red Lobster, and you came up with this idea for FUBU. Tell me about that.
Well, I was working at Red Lobster and I was buying and consuming everything hip hop, whether it was CDs, records, going to concerts and things of that nature. And I would start to hear all these designers say that they don't make anything for whether it's rappers or hip hop or African Americans or anything like that. Everybody had somebody that they didn't make it for, but really that was their main consumer. And I started to get frustrated. I said to myself, who's ever going to respect and love and value the customers that work so hard to support them? Knowing most of the designers now, I know they were not that ignorant to really say that, but those were urban myths. But and then I was working at Red Lobster when they introduced cheese biscuits, right?
Okay.
So. Yeah, I know. I saw you at table 43. So I used to work there, and then I used to bring these cheese biscuits out to people, and they would get full off the cheese biscuits. And I was a waiter, and I was working off tips, and they would leave, and they would never leave any tips because they were full off the cheese biscuits. So I said, there's got to be a better way, right? And I went home and I created a brand for us, by us. I came up with that idea, and it wasn't really about African Americans. It was about a generation. It was about a culture. And I started putting these 10 t-shirts on different artists, so in rap videos, and I would put them on the artist, they would shoot a video, and I would take it back, and I'd put it on another artist and take it back. Before you know it, after 2-3 years, people thought I was this huge clothing company.
But you were basically going to video sets and just begging and wishing for someone, one of those celebrities, to put on your t-shirt.
Absolutely. There was one year that I sat on 43 video sets. Now, at that time, you have to understand, the celebrities they didn't have much money, right? But I also valued and respected them, and the other clothing companies couldn't care less about them. They wouldn't give them anything. So I was not only a fan of the music, I was a fan of the person, and that's the most important thing about anybody who supports you. If you make them feel special, they will keep supporting you, and that's why they really wore the clothes.
But was it one of those contrarian investments where people didn't really see the phenomenon was there, but the business people didn't actually identify the opportunity that it would be profitable?
Yeah, and that's when you sneak up on somebody, and most businesses have, whether you're a kid in Harvard who just wanted a couple of friends on your Facebook or any other brand, when you sneak up on them, it's really how you gain market share, and then speed is what you need. You join obviously with a strategic partner, a shark, and you bring all that knowledge of what you've learned when you were sneaking up on people to a corporate level.
Okay, so take me through this kind of evolution, because you grew FUBU over the years. How long was the period when you think about from when you started to when you really were at your peak?
Well, I started in '89 with the concept. It was Good Friday, 1989. I sold a couple of hats on a corner. I closed the company 3 times up until 1992 because I ran out of capital. That's when I started doing the little shirts here and there. And we had a factory in my own home and everything else like that. And we got to around 96, 97 where we started getting national exposure. Around 97, 98, I closed the deal with Samsung Distribution. And then from 98 to around 2003, FUBU was, red hot.
Yeah. And you feel like, we talked earlier and you said there was a period that you really should have capitalized and probably sold the company and that you didn't.
Yeah, well, it was one of those things, FUBU, was fortunate enough to really give hope and excitement to a lot of people. And people will walk up to me on the street and cry in tears and say, I found a way to empower myself. I never thought that I could own, and you guys are showing me how to own. And we were at the point where, big corporations were offering to buy us, $200, $300, $400 million, but we had this sense of pride that we didn't want to sell it, number one, and the numbers weren't right. And we decided that we wanted to go and acquire other companies. When looking back, we should have probably sold or took in other capital and had a successful exit. We would have probably taken about $500 million, but we never really exited.
Okay, so in real estate, they talk about not being emotionally tied.
Yeah.
Right? But how can you not be emotionally tied to a business that you really started, that's your baby?
Yeah, it's your baby, and it's very, very hard. One of the things we did right, though, was we ended up using the platform that we have in the distribution, the back office, to acquire other companies, such as Heather Ed and Drunken Monkey and Coogee, and right now we just acquired Etonic, the old footwear company.
Okay, so you are just continuing to acquire businesses. Let's talk about Shark Tank, because it's just exploded.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's a time record breaker for CNBC that suffered on some of their ratings, but you guys have really helped kind of push them forward and bring them back to the fore. It's a cutthroat show. I mean, in terms of the judges and the intensity between you guys. Do you all get along? Offset?
Offset, yes. We absolutely get along. On set, I mean, that is as real as it gets. Those pitches are anywhere from an hour to 2 hours long, and we're fighting with everybody. We're fighting with ourselves, should we do this. We're fighting with mainly Kevin, and then we're fighting with, the entrepreneurs, and, it's real.
You have so many companies that come in, and you put up this money. Do you have a finite amount of money that you personally can only go to spend, to commit each year?
No, not really, because if you really look at it, most of the companies coming on there want anywhere from $100,000 to maybe $500,000, and if you end up closing on 10 deals, you'll be out of, the most, probably about $3 million will be working capital per year. And that working capital will return on most of it. So I would say that any shark on the panel would most likely not have to invest more than $4 or $5 million per year, and that's still returning on the investment as well. And all you need is one of them, and it'll compensate for everything that you've invested in to hit.
And a lot of these don't actually come to fruition. They may on the show, but down the line, do these deals fall apart after you do your due diligence?
Well,
some of them?
Less than now. First couple of seasons, the producers were producers. They weren't necessarily entrepreneurs. So a lot of people on there may not have had the quality of deal flow that we liked. But now we've all gotten into a rhythm where I'm closing on 8 or 9 out of my 10 deals now, because the deal flow is better. I also have a rhythm of what I want to do, and I've learned this rhythm, and I also have a supporting staff. So now it's a much heavier ratio of closing, and I'm also not bidding on things that I know that I can't add any value to.
One of the things that you've done is you've taken the phenomenon of building celebrity and then building ancillary businesses around it. That's something that LL Cool J did. That's something that Jay-Z has done, and you were one of the originators of that concept. Is there a point that you spread yourself too thin, like you feel like, man, I have too many businesses and I don't have time to dedicate enough to each of them?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think that everybody.
How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think that everybody, once they come into, they're fortunate enough to be successful and they have resources, they get this, you can drown in opportunity type of thing. I tried to start a record label here, I tried to start this, I tried to start that. And you realize that there's no shortcuts, and you realize that money is just not going to solve something or make it successful. It's really blood, sweat, and work, and heart, and heart, and or you need to partner up with somebody who's put the time in. And we've learned that as investors. So I've lost way more and failed way more times than I've succeeded, and that brings me to the time now where I can be better adapted to the business I like and how to expand the businesses I'm interested in.
Is it easier when you're starting out and you have more to gain, or is it easier when you're up here and you have more to lose?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that before. I think that it's easier when you're up here because you don't necessarily have more to lose, but you can afford to invest and or go into these 5 pockets, and if these 2 don't work, you're okay because these 3 are still doing okay. So when I was first starting out, it was about life or death. It was, will I be able to feed myself or my family? Am I making the right career moves? Will I be able to get out of this debt if I take on another partner? So it was way the challenges were deeper at that time.
How much of it is nuance? I mean, you are one of these guys that really understands culture. And
Yeah.
you have a good vision for what's hot or what's going to be hot. How much is it that? Because a lot of people don't have the authenticity. They think that they can acquire these skills, but you have to have them intuitively to some extent.
You have to have them, to me, I believe that you have to have them somewhat intuitively, but you have to be smart enough to walk in the room and act like you're the dumbest person, be ready to learn. And that's the beauty of Shark Tank, is that we're able to invest in other people's dreams. Now, I'm not a digital native, right? But these kids coming on there, 20, 25 years old, are doing things so amazing that the more they change the business, the more they stay the same. I may know the basics and the fundamentals to it and to the components that are needed, but that kid, that girl, that guy, they have the new elements. And I know if I add that to my knowledge, we can both win. I'm not like, you see, Mark Cuban thinks he knows everything, right? I walk in the room like I'm dumb, you know?
Okay, so when you think of the tastemakers, because you're paying attention to millennials and to what's hot, in sports, who would you say inspires you the most right now that you're looking at to be the next hottest thing?
In sports, in regards to the next hottest athlete or the next hottest sport?
Athlete.
I'm really not a big sports guy. I'm really, the sport that I follow is UFC,
Okay.
but I really couldn't answer that question. I'm sure if I answer it, everybody will tell me I'm crazy. So
Okay, what about music?
the next person to really come up in music,
when you look at like kind of things that you would invest in or things that you would want to be a part of.
Well, the person who is changing the game in music is obviously Beyonce with her the release of the new album, and how she's showing that you don't need the traditional brick and mortar. So I'm really fascinated by how she executed that program with a full album, videos, everything, being on the road, being a mother, being a wife at the same time. So I'm gonna look at Beyonce for what she's recently done. But of course, as you know, one of my dear friends who is a phenomenon in music, and you can't really categorize him as a rapper, singer, or Latin or whatever, is Pitbull. And I really I'm fascinated at Pitt's thinking as well. He's really amazing.
He's one of the most prolific product endorsers, and he's got this international vision.
Yeah.
And he's done it in ways that other rappers, if you want to call him a rapper, haven't been able to do.
Yeah, you know what? You would go to random countries, and he's just the biggest thing ever. And he's really a visionary. At the end of the day, he doesn't make his music about politics. He knows that everybody wants to go home and let the music wash over them and have fun. He also has no problem going into other pockets, like his new song with Kesha is very country slash nouveau music. So he's a really big visionary, and like every other successful artist who understand their value, he also gives back a lot, and that ends up bringing a lot of people in his circle who are visionaries as well, because they know he's not in it just for himself.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience. A lot of people want to know, are you involved, first of all, in the selection of the people that appear on the show?
No, we do not know anybody, or anything about the companies. Actually, we don't even get a piece of paper, because I always say if we got a piece of paper in half those companies, we would say, no, tell them don't even walk down the aisle. So a lot of people pitch me, hey, get me on the show. The problem is, if I know you or I know your company, you're automatically disqualified from the show, because it gives me a leg up on everybody else.
And a lot of people don't realize that and try to get a hold of you
they think
in all kinds of ways.
Yeah,
right?
they're wasting their time.
Okay. What advice do you give for people that really want to, from a marketing standpoint, figure out how to get the exposure without having a lot of money to invest?
On the show,
Like to
or
get
in
on
general?
shows like Shark Tank to raise their visibility.
Well, Shark Tank, I'm told, has 40,000 applicants online for the show, but people go to open casting calls. But at the end of the day, it's really about your product and how you deliver and position your product, because Shark Tank or a video set or even Wall Street Journal doesn't want to highlight you unless your product has legs. It's a new form of delivery, and people are talking about it, and it's creating a movement. There's a fascinating story. You have to sell the story to your product, not just your product. People love to invest in stories.
Where did you get your training? I mean, because even that lesson, I mean, where did you, and I know you have a school where you can impart some of this.
That's true. Well, I got my training from, again, the theory that I'm walking in the room as the dumbest person. I don't think that I would have made it past casting on Shark Tank. If I would have walked into the producer and said, hey, yo, LL be wearing my stuff, and, these shirts, woo, they flavorful. If I would have walked in there and said that, they would have never done anything with me. But I was fortunate enough to have great mentors. I have 4 amazing partners, Keith, Carl, and Jay. My mother taught me a lot, as well as my 2 other partners at Samsung, Norman and Bruce, and I always have learned from them every single year. And you know what? When I'm on Shark Tank, I truthfully learn the most. I learn from every one of the sharks except for Barbara, and I learn from, Barbara's not that bright, and I learn from the entrepreneurs. I learn from everybody.
Okay. You have a lot of exciting things going on. One of them is the Damon John Academy, right?
The Damon John Academy, we go around the country and we talk and teach entrepreneurs in a 3-day full course about really entrepreneurship. Do you
attend each one? Or?
I attend some of the academies and speak when my time permits, but I have a team of about 20 people, and we teach everybody things from should you manufacture domestic or international, what's a trademark, what's a patent, should you get funding now, how do you set up for funding, and things of that nature.
And you're dyslexic.
I am.
4 of the judges on the show are dyslexic.
4 of the 6 sharks are dyslexic. And I'm working with Yale to bring the awareness to dyslexia, because 20% of the population is dyslexic, whether they know it or not. But unfortunately, in urban communities, when a kid is dyslexic and he or she is feeling like they're dumb, for argument's sake, and they don't go to school, you have a bigger pool of kids saying, why don't you come over here and do this instead? You don't need to go to school. And what happens is there's a lot of talented people that are dyslexic. Einstein, Tom Cruise, a couple of the presidents were dyslexic. So I really want to bring that awareness out to people.
What has it done for your creativity?
Dyslexia, actually, when I was in school, I got into a program, was a co-op program, where I got to work 1 week, or actually 3 blocks away from here, as a foot messenger, and then I would go to school the other week. And the reason being is I didn't want to go to school. It also made me think of other creative ways to get the product out and the concept out. Numbers, you can't touch me on numbers necessarily, but in regards to reading and writing, dyslexia was always a challenge to me, so it made me work harder to study other things.
All right, that is a very, very inspirational thing to hear for all of the people out there that may not necessarily be going to Harvard or whatever it is, but there are so many entrepreneurs that find their way somehow from within. I want to open it up because there are people in the audience, I'm sure, that have questions.
Question about e-commerce. What's the mix between your company, between brick and mortar stores and online channel? And where do you see that heading in the future?
With my company's e-commerce is probably about only 20%. That's some areas that we have to improve. I think that is by far the future. I'd rather that, because we get to directly speak to our consumer. We understand the feedback, and we no longer have to deal with the stores, and a lot of times their issue, if they're going to pay, if they're not going to pay, they're going to close the doors. So we have to concentrate on e-commerce, but just like I think everybody's challenged in business, things are changing so fast in technology. So, how are you getting these people to view your page? How are you getting these people to view your content? How is your content resonating with them? A lot of times e-commerce can actually hurt your business in some sense, and I learned that the hard way. When we were doing all these beautiful ads for one of my brands, Coogee, the e-commerce page is we would shoot these little flats of the garments to sell them, but they weren't shot in any glossy kind of image way. So a kid naturally was going to look at our product. He sees Coogee, he pulls it up. He sees all these little flats that look like, this is out of some cheap catalog. Immediately, that's his image of the brand, his or her image of the brand. So now we understood that as much as all this great advertising we're doing, it has to mimic it and mirror it here, or it can hurt the brand. So we learn these type of lessons every single day.
I'm a former professional baseball player turned fashion designer, and we've been very fortunate to get some pro athlete and celebrity endorsements. And we originated in Brooklyn, so FUBU has been an inspiration to us. My question to you is, from your experience, can a small new brand that is getting some traction and some exposure, can we produce in the United States without ever having to look for manufacturing deals overseas. I started my collection purchasing pieces here in the United States, promoting the fact that we were made in America, which is awesome. I'm very proud to do that. But what I've learned doing research from other brands, that most times brands do have to leave and manufacture the goods overseas. Is that something that will be inevitable for my brand in order to achieve financial success?
So at the stage you're at now, you absolutely can produce here, and the beautiful thing is China is getting more expensive, and Americans, when we manufacture or do anything, we are by far the best, hands down. And our prices are coming down here as China is raising their prices. I believe that manufacturing is returning to America, and I think that you absolutely can do an amazing job. And the best part about it is when you manufacture domestically, you can go there to the factories or the plants. You turnaround time is much quicker, as well as, you know, like his agenda. You're contributing to the schools, the police force, to everything else. So, absolutely, we had a big challenge on Shark Tank because there was one guy who was talking about he wanted to create jobs, and we told him maybe going overseas, but he didn't have the right sourcing in America to do it. But if you find these great factories, you absolutely can make it here.
The question I had for you, are you finding more success with companies that are service products or more tangible products? And then just the second question behind that, are you only leveraging Shark Tank now as your source for looking for entrepreneurs?
I find more success in products, not service products, only because that's my history. I would rather really be able to tap into the service of technology. I do not only look for deals through Shark Tank. I look through deals through several different initiatives I have. I have something out with Miller Lite where I go out and try to help people, Edison Nation, and these are contests and or things that we inject capital and cash without taking any of the companies. So I look for it in various different ways.
I was wondering if you had any awesome, insightful advice about, you know, a lot of us are entrepreneurs and stuff trying to make it out here in the world. And what do you have to say about like your mind? And you mentioned like life or death. I mean, that's a great motivator. And I mean, just constant success. I mean, seeing that in your mind is makes you want to do things and go out there and be the dumbest person in the room to learn as much as you can. What can you say about, you know, mind tricks to help you get past a certain point and to raise yourself to the next level and the next level?
It's very hard, and I don't want to sound, like Gandhi, but first of all, you have to do something you're absolutely obsessed with and you love that you would do for free for the rest of your life. Second of all, you have to do it with people that you like to work with. You're going to work with these people longer, and you're going to see them more than you're going to see your family, per se. Second of all, a peace of mind, honestly, don't take in funding too soon. Because to have to pay back somebody else and have to always answer to somebody else about, you know, what you're doing to the company, you just took away your freedom immediately. And the sooner you take in money, the more the money costs. Go out there and prove the market and understand it, and then the money will not cost as much. Somebody won't want 60% of the company, they'll want 10% of the company, and you'll feel better that you can provide for them. But it's all about being able to do exactly what you love and wake up every single day like it's Christmas when you're running your company. It's your baby, you're excited, you can't wait to do it. If you're doing it just for money, I promise you, you'll either not make the money or you'll end up in the wrong place if you make the money. So.